This is where it's going from.
You're live.
It says waiting. It says waiting. It's always a little bit experimental. Oh, okay. It's always a little bit experimental. Oh, no. Okay. That's like a nightmare. Oh, God. The ripples. Hello. Okay, we're live. Hello. You can just turn around the room so everyone can say hello. Just wave at whoever may or may not be on the live stream, if you don't mind. They can hear you as well.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Do you want to just make sure that they are hearing us? I guess they are.
Well, they should complain if they aren't.
Yes.
Are you hearing us?
This is Ludmilla. I'm saying it to live stream people, but also to the room. This is Ludmilla.
Hi.
She very courageously stepped in at the last minute because Branwyn, our other co-founder, has food poisoning today, unfortunately. So Ludmilla is one of my PhD colleagues in the department here, the Media and Communications at LSE, and she's going to run the live stream, kind of try and involve the people on the live stream chat into the conversation this time. But also I'd encourage you to go onto the live stream yourselves if you have a laptop in front of you, because then you can also chat to the people who are on there. We're trying to like meld the two together if we can. It's kind of weird because I can see myself on the camera, but it's fine.
No.
I mean, there's no other way to do it.
No,
obviously.
I'm afraid.
I'm going to turn this here as well, just so they can see
The screen.
the screen. I realise you guys on there might not be able to see the screen details, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be explaining stuff. So, thanks for coming. I'm Zoe, for anyone who wasn't here last time. Who was here last time? Okay, cool. So we have quite a lot of new people here. So what we'd like to do, or what I would like to do, is just do a quick whip round for people to say where what their name is and where you work, if you work in an institution, or why you're here, why you've decided to come here. And it'd be useful for me to know if you use Nvivo or if you're planning to use Nvivo, just so I can kind of cater the workshop to the people in the room. If that's okay? Can we start here and go round this way? Oh wait, sorry, Ludmilla.
Yes,
You can go
okay.
first.
I'm Ludmilla, a PhD student here in the department. I intend to use Nvivo. I haven't started yet because I haven't finished my data collection. So I hope this workshop is useful.
Yeah.
I'm counting on it.
Students. I'm quite interested in this topic because I've been researching digital ethnography since I was in the bachelor at the university, but I didn't know how to. I mean, I'm not quite familiar with the tool that you use, so I hope to gain more insight here.
Cool. And you're a master's student?
Yeah.
And what are you studying?
Digital assets and media management.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I'm studying digital culture and society in KCL. And I didn't have any experience in data analysis, but I'm here to learn new things. And I'm really interested in big data in general.
Big data.
Yes.
Okay. This is more like small data, but it's interesting to see the connection between the two. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Gabriella. I'm an independent curator based in Liverpool, and I run a blog called Cognitive Sensations, which explores the neurological effects of the digital age. And I'm currently trying to put together a PhD proposal. So this program is completely alien to me, but I'm trying to get into PhD land.
Lovely.
This is a step in.
I have a video for you if you're interested in that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Leila. I'm a sociologist and anthropologist. I'm researching sexual populations and politics, mainly in Israel and the Middle East. I'm now a postdoc researcher at Leicester University at the School of Criminology. And I'm doing a research on the purchasing of sex in the Middle East. And the first phase is researching online communities of sex consumers. So I have a lot of written data. So I want to use Nvivo to analyze all this data.
Right.
So I'm Raquel. I'm a PhD student from Brazil, and I'm here as a visiting fellow at the Latin American and Caribbean Center. I'm an architect and urban planner, so nothing to do with with most of you, perhaps. and my research is on the relationships between housing and domestic violence against women. And I finished all my data collection and started to, analyze it manually. And they just told me I had to use Nvivo. I just downloaded the software and haven't started using it yet. So
what kind of data do you have?
So interviews, mainly like dating interviews.
Right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm from just across the road at King's. I'm a second year PhD student, and my research looks at the mutual shaping of social media platforms and memory. So I'm interested in how everyday forms of remembering occur on Instagram and Facebook, and how that happens in the context of young women's lives. And as part of my field work, I will do a 6-month type of ethnography following my participants on Instagram and Facebook. And I've played around with Nvivo when I did some pilot research, but I'm not sure if I doubt I'm getting the most out of it. So I'm really interested to see how you use it.
Hi, I'm a PhD here in the media communications, and I'm also planning to use Nvivo because I have conducted in-depth interviews and online ethnographic participant observations. So I had both interviews and online materials. So I guess it's going to be useful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm a psychologist. Came across this by chance last night, and it's fascinating. So I have a visitor from Italy who's interested in using Nvivo.
Great.
So I have used Nvivo for a long time ago.
And you're a psychologist in what context?
In terms of work psychology, so occupational psychologist.
Cool.
My area of interest is occupational. It's adult attachment styles. So around issues around leadership, teams, and online behavior maybe as well. So,
great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fran. I'm a PhD student at the Institute of Modern Language Research. It's my 3rd year. And I'm working with the relationship of language, community, identity, and multilingualism online. So a lot of my data is social media, consumer reviews, and posts on Facebook, and some interviews as well. So I'm trying to find out if I can use them.
Sure. Great.
Yeah, I'm working with Eric, and I'm an internship here, and we are working on a teacher well-being project. So we are collecting quantitative data as well as qualitative data. So I'm planning to use Nvivo this week. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I use visual ethnography, digital visual ethnography, and I'm an implementer filmmaker, and I use all this as a method of research for looking at certain religious groups, but also at politics and how representation is distorted in certain contexts. So I'm not using Nvivo, but I was interested.
Cool.
Great. My name is Lisa, and I'm here a master's student in LSE at anthropology and development. I didn't use this software before, but I'm always interested in qualitative data because I did a lot of interviews and in-depth focus groups. I've always been curious how to analyze those facts.
Great.
My name is William. I'm a consultant practitioner for college piece. I work with the NHS Trust. I've come along because I'm interested in improving my understanding of quantitative and qualitative data. And I thought this was a perfect place to renew my familiarity. And I do know how to use Nvivo. I've used it quite a few times recently.
Great. What have you used it for?
Just to familiarise myself with what you're going to do.
Oh, good. Did its homework. Thank you. And one more, yeah?
Wonderful. Hi, I'm
Okay.
In case you didn't see on the email, this is not going to be archived, so you don't need to worry about.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's just for the people who couldn't be here physically.
Okay. I'm Chandra Morrison. I'm a postdoc at the Latin American Caribbean Center here at LSE. I work on urban art and cultural politics. I'm currently working on a project based in Lima, Peru. And I use, I'm assuming, digital methods is what we're talking about. Okay, I work with a lot of digital data, so a lot of things generated off of social media relating to kind of the construction of public debates and discourses. And I have like a brief experience with Nvivo. I kind of always try it and then move back to other methods.
Sure.
So, but I work in a lot of mixed methods.
Great.
Kind of approaches.
Well, thank you very much. And I would invite you guys. How many people? 35 people, more than last time, which is surprising. Maybe this is more useful than the first one. Please introduce yourself if you haven't already, and tell us where you're coming from and why you're on the live stream. And when we get to the discussion section, which is like the second half, we will try and incorporate your comments and questions and introductions into the conversation. Thank you very much. Great. Well, we have quite a diverse array of different people doing different types of work here, which is great. So I'm hoping that this will be useful to all of you. Sorry if it's not. That might be the reality of some of you. Please just carry on passing around the food and the wine, and the juice. Oh, juice is nearly finished. More juice next time. Not you. Just note yourself. So I am talking specifically about digital ethnographic projects here, which is not the same as sort of, data, big data, or quantitative methods. But some of the things that I'm talking about might be useful to you anyway, even if you're not doing qualitative research, because the first half is going to be me talking about my project and how I have gone about using Nvivo, which will involve both the organization of data and also how doing my thematic analysis like this has led to certain themes arising, and how we deal with very large quantities of different types of qualitative data. And then the second half will be a discussion with the group about how different people have done different things in terms of data analysis. The point is that it's like a discussion, not just me telling you what I do, because what I do might not be useful to you. Little disclaimer. Right, that is fine. I had to print out my notes because I'm this is my computer, so I can't look at my notes. It's kind of nice to have it there physically. Right, so the first part, I'm going to talk about my how I organize my data. You will see from this that I'm a bit of a file freak. I really like to organize data in terms of lots of different files, and I feel that helps me to manage a lot of different types of data well. But I realize that might not be how everyone goes about doing things. I should just say, for those of you who weren't here last time, I am a third-year PhD student in this department, Media and Communications. I'm doing an ethnographic study of the labour and lived experiences of YouTube creators within the online video industry. So it's kind of like a creative industries project, what's changed in the creative industries, and it involves lots of different types of data. So it involves offline fieldwork in the form of going to industry events, and also groups like the London Small YouTubers Network. There are lots of sort of hubs of creators where creators get together to talk about their work and to improve their channels and stuff like this. So I've done that for 2 years. I have done online ethnography, so across different platforms, mostly YouTube, but also Twitter, Instagram, I would say Snapchat, but I haven't actually been on Snapchat, Twitch, all the different kind of platforms, Facebook, that they work across. And then I also have done auto-ethnography in the form of becoming a YouTuber myself and writing auto-ethnographic field notes, which I also put into my Nvivo. So all of these different types of data are all being collated in one program, which is actually what I find so useful about Nvivo for a project like this, because it would just become completely overwhelming. Oh, and I've done 30 interviews with creators as well. So I have lots and lots of different types of data. So to start, you can see this is my Nvivo. The main bit, and also please feel free to interrupt me as we go along if there's any questions you want to ask, but the second half will be like a discussion. So if you want clarification on like any particular thing I say, then just like jump in. If it's more of a general point for talking, then save it till the second part. So under the data bit here, I know we just went round and said, but could you just raise your hand if you've used Nvivo before for your own data analysis? So like, yeah, okay. There are some people who are completely unfamiliar. So sorry if I'm going over things that some of you already know. So using Nvivo for ethnographic research is quite different than using it for other types of research. We had like, in LSE, they have like workshops on using Nvivo, and we went, were you there? Mm-hmm. We went to one, and it was like more for like psychology and stuff, where you have like a small number of maybe a large number of interviews, and you want to code it by like different demographics or ages, and it's quite a small amount of data, and it's used in a particular kind of way for that kind of research. But with ethnographic data that's inductive, where you're really like collecting a lot of stuff over a long period of time and you don't know what exactly you're trying to find, it's open-ended, it's used in quite a different way. And that's what I'm talking about. So the data up here, these are the different types of data that I have. I've split it up by like the different types, the different things that I've just said, so that I can like keep on top of it. I also keep like admin, like tickets and bookings for like field trips and stuff like that in here. So I have my interviews, offline ethnography, online ethnography. Structure and theoretical framework is kind of not a useful folder. Sometimes I start folders and then I like don't use them anymore, but that's just like part of the thing. So for example, I'll have the main folders here for the different types of data, and then I'll put underneath I'll split them down by more things. So online ethnography, for example, I have blogs, email exchanges, Facebook Messenger, journalism about YouTube, which is kind of like a textual analysis type thing. I'm not really sure how much I'm going to use that in the end. Patreon, research reports, Skype calls, Twitter. Under Twitter, I have interesting tweets, my interactions with people, useful Twitter accounts. It's just how I have like split it up in my head. YouTube is the main one, obviously, because I'm studying YouTube. So I have the back end of the website, which is like where my channel data goes. General field notes, videos and comments, YouTuber profiles. I'll just show you inside one of these folders just so you can see. So whenever I bring a new piece of data in, I wonder, would you like me to show you how I bring data into Nvivo? That'd be useful. Okay. So for example, quite a lot of my data of my online fieldwork will be bringing screenshots from YouTube videos into my Nvivo. So let me just show you an example. Okay, here's one. You'll see that the video itself doesn't come up, it's just a blank screen, but this is a video from Lena, who's also someone I've interviewed, being honest with my boyfriend, relationships in your 20s. And this is how it pops up. It kind of messes it up a bit when you like import it in. Oh, look, I left a comment on this video, but you'll see like you can see the comments. It kind of gets a bit funny when it comes in, and how you would do that is that you would go to YouTube, you install a plugin, which is like this. Where is it? This one here. It's called NCapture. Just the letter NCapture, all one word. You download that, and then you can like, oh, I have to go into video. I made a tree for my cats out of driftwood.
Useful.
I actually do watch this channel quite a lot. So you go to Capture, and you see there are different options. You have video and comments, or web pages PDF. If you're using a Mac, you can't. The video option doesn't work. So just good to know. But actually, and that if it did work, which it does on a Windows, like the video actually plays in Nvivo, and you can code different parts of the video, which is very useful. But then the Nvivo would become like impossibly clogged up very, very quickly. So I wouldn't recommend doing that anyway, as it happens, unless you're only using like a very small number of videos. But I do web pages PDF, and then I'll do the date here, and I'll write the name of the channel here. That's just how I manage it. And then in the description, I'll write like why it's interesting, like why am I pulling this video in? And I might be like, I love cats, whatever. And then you'll click capture, and it takes like a second to think about it. And then you come back into here and you go, oh, I want that video. So you go up here to data. You can see you can pull in documents, PDFs, data sets, pictures, NCapture. So I'm going to go to NCapture, and there it is at the top. I made a tree for my cats. It's a really silly video to use as an example. And it pops up here, and you can see that I love cats is there, but if I wanted to, I could add extra notes here. This is a question, like, it just depends how you choose to use it. But with this, I leave all of my notes about why something is useful in this notes in the description section. Some people would add a memo, like you can add a memo to a field note or to a video. I just don't do it like that. I haven't found that to be useful for how I do it, because I know that if I want to remember why I pulled something in, I can just go back and check, basically. So press done, and then it will pop up like this. I made a tree, and then, you know, I can go back. It tells me when it was. I can go back and search this video, whatever. It will pull in the comments, or maybe it won't. Oh, that's weird. The comments aren't showing. Slightly worrying, but that doesn't usually happen. Usually the comments are just there. And if I wanted to go back and check why I had pulled something in, like I was saying, find that description box again, I could go to this video, let's say, right click it, and I could go to get info, and then I'll see, you know, here, for example, obviously this video I liked because at the end she makes the video longer and puts text over to say that it's for algorithmic reasons, which is like interesting because part of my project is about how creators understand algorithms and metrics and how they like change their videos in response to that to try and earn more money and stuff. So that's why I pulled that video in. But let's say so once I've pulled it in, I won't just have the description box, I'll also code it. So this is kind of where the analysis starts to happen, right? So what I do is I'll highlight the title, I go up here to code, and then I'll be like, this is Hayley Blay. Okay, so as it happens, I've coded this already, but like it will come up here. I'll explain what these mean in a minute, but I would click on this. So yes, I want to code it to Hayley. I also want to code it to algorithms. And then I have like a million different codes that have algorithm in the title. Oh, look, there you go. Creators trying to work with algorithms to maximize success. That's one of my codes. So it's like perfect. And I'll also code it to the month. So, I mean, I've already done this, so I don't think it matters if I double code it, but it's October 2019. And all of these codes are just things that I've created. Like this is my system, but you can basically do it in any way you want. You can have loads of codes, you can have like 10 codes. I've talked to my supervisor a lot about this. She's like, oh, I like a project that just has 10 codes. Like, because she starts with the knowledge that she knows exactly what she's trying to find, what the question is, and then she's just coding basically for her chapter headings or her subheadings. Like she already knows what the project is before she's starting, because she's not doing ethnography. But if you're doing ethnography, which is ground up, you're just coding openly, and then the codes become more refined as time goes on. I'll show you the codes in a minute, so it will make more sense. For example, I also have my interviews in here, interview transcripts. I have 30 interviews here. Let's say, oh, I should have said, you're welcome to take pictures if you want to, but if it has obviously like some sensitive data, just don't post it anywhere. Yeah. So this is an interview I have. I put at the top the stats that I put for every interview. Then I have the full transcript here, which is like whatever, 60 pages or something. And then I haven't gone through and coded any of my interviews yet, which is something I'd like to discuss later. But let's say I wanted to, I don't know, I could go, oops, sorry. It's the same kind of process. Like I would say, oh, this is interesting. I want to code that to whatever it is, like Oscar films, because he's talking about Oscar films. Right, and then it will go into my codes, and then I'll go and manage my codes in a minute. That's going to be a weird one later when I'm like, why do I have a code called Oscar films? I also keep all of my consent forms in here, like all interview prep documents. Like there's lots of things that it's good because you can put anything in here, basically. That's why it's useful. So before I have interviews, I do a document which is like looking through their channel, writing things about why I think they'll be an interesting person to interview, and like taking screenshots from their channel, stuff like that. This is Hannah. Don't know if anyone of you recognize any of these people, but I mean, some of the people that I've interviewed are sort of famous if you watch a lot of YouTube. Right. Does that all make sense? Any like questions about any of this stuff? Okay, cool. I also have my field notes, like my auto-ethnographic field notes, same kind of thing, where I look at my own channel. I do a little, every time I upload a video, I kind of write something about, you know, my experiences, how the channel's going, all this kind of stuff. But it's the same kind of thing. It's a Word document. And you can also, one thing that's very useful to know is that you can edit. So I wrote this as a Word document. I always save your notes somewhere else. Don't write them in Nvivo because if it broke down, you'd be fucked. But I import them as Word documents, but you can always edit. So if you click this little edit button here, you could add like, hello, we are live, whatever. And then it's, you know, so you don't, it's not like set in stone once you put it into Nvivo, which is always good to know. I don't think you can edit a PDF. So if you want to be able to change it afterwards, put it in as Word, not PDF. So that's the first part of the organization. The second part of the organization are the cases here. This is, I wonder if I can explain this in a like intelligible way. This is a different thing, a different part of the organization process for me, which I take quite seriously. I decided to put all of my, each month, because part of my project is about change over time. So each month from the start of the project to the end, and every time I bring anything in, I code it by the month. And that means that, like, let's say I was like, what happened in August 2019? I can click on that and it will give me every bit of data. You know, all these are different types of data. This is interview transcripts, consent forms, whatever. Like all the videos will come up here and I can see like what was happening in August, which is useful. August happens to be the month where I imported a lot of my interview transcripts, which is why this looks a bit mad. But let's say May 2018. Look, we've got YouTube channels, so these are YouTube videos. These are all YouTube videos actually. But it's an interesting way to think about the data in a different way, I think, that I find quite useful. I also have cases for people, so all the creators that I work with or have done any fieldwork about, I put in like this, and then like, let's say I wanted to look up Lucy, who's one person that I've interviewed and met a lot at offline events and stuff. I could go like this, and I could just go, you know, if I knew that I wanted to write a bit about Lucy, I could find them all in one place. So I find that's the cases thing, that's very useful. And I also have events in here, but I haven't ended up using this much. So those are my offline events. And the reason I haven't ended up using it is because I have one up here for offline events, and I found that that wasn't a useful thing it was just a duplication of the same kind of thing. So it's a bit trial and error, but that's fine. You can just see what works. Okay, so this is the main thing, right? So nodes, things about like what, you know, I was coding things. I'm going to change the view. Bottom. I think that's easier to look at. So these are my nodes. You can see Oscar Films there. Actually, I don't like this view. I never look at it like this. It's not pleasant for me. Okay, I'll just pull this over. Right, so basically this is where the actual like project is happening. Every time I code something, it's going into here. And then what I do is you see how all of these are in capital letters? Nothing actually sits in these top, like in any of these ones in capital letters. The things that basically codes sit underneath. So like intimacy, authenticity, this is one of my chapters. So everything I've ever coded that would sit in that theme sits under here. And then even some bigger codes sit inside there as well. I started, like, the process of analyzing is like, with ethnographic data is always a question of like, you know, bringing things in and rethinking how they're organized in order to work through the themes that you want your project to be about. So that's why I have so many codes. And I realized I have an excessive number, like not everyone would have this many. I also haven't even coded any of my interviews yet, or most of my field notes. I just have a lot of codes. Now I'm going to refer to this because I actually wrote something clever down, which will be more useful than just me talking like ad-libbing about it. So my project is completely inductive and ground up. Like this is a fully ethnographic project, which I realize is not what some of you might be doing. But the point being that like I started with a very loose set of questions, and I did that on purpose because I didn't know what my project was going to be about. I didn't even know that it was going to be about labor when I started, which is like the central concept that I'm using now. And that was done very intentionally because, well, I even have a quote here. This is how organized I was. Are you familiar with Hammersley and Atkinson? They have like a very classic text. If you're interested in ethnography, a very classic text called Ethnography Principles in Practice, which is like a book that has been published and published over and over again. And basically, I'm following what they call like the funnel structure. So let me just read this out. So it follows the classic funnel structure of ethnographic projects, becoming increasingly focused as the project goes on. Hammersley and Atkinson observe that it is frequently well into the data collection period that one discovers what the research is really about. Although this open-endedness is potentially daunting, sorry, I'm just taking this from my upgrade, which was a couple of years ago now. Was it a couple of years ago? 1 year ago. Yeah, end of first year, yeah, I was going to say. Although this open-endedness is potentially daunting when starting out a project, it's crucial for ethnography, where the central aim is to understand and make sense of the world from the point of view of participants in order for the researcher to avoid imposing their own preconceptions onto the culture in question. In other words, I didn't want to start with very strict ideas of what I was talking about because I hadn't even been in the field yet. So I didn't know what people were going to be talking about. And I wanted my project to be about the lives of my participants and not just about what, you know, some concept of what I think is important to those people. So I have a lot of codes because I was starting very broadly. And as time has gone on, you'll see these ones up here have numbers. That's because this is as I've started to think actually much more recently, like a year and a half into my data collection, starting to think of how I'm actually going to organize my data. So 1, 2, 3, these are my empirical chapters, but I only changed. Before that, there were 7, 7 empirical chapters. And then I had a supervision and we discussed, you know, we refined the project, you know, and brought some of those themes into an even bigger theme in order to minimize the number of chapters. But you can see, like, all these ones with capital letters, these were all other major themes, and now they're sitting underneath this one meta theme. Yeah, so and we have some of that, you'll see some of them just have like one thing underneath them, some of them have like a few, and then let's see, some of them have quite a lot, you know. Oh yeah, there you go, some of them have a lot, and that's because there's more, I guess, more aspects to it thing for my project. And then obviously I still got all this stuff under here, which technically at the moment isn't sitting in any chapter, which may not make its way into the project at all. So there's a lot of data that I don't end up using, but that's just the case with any ethnographic project, because it's like, how do you fit 2 years of data into one thesis? It's just not practical, especially when you're starting with like very broad concepts, because it's like you don't even know what your question is really. So, but I think that's okay, because with each of these things, I could talk about any of these things for like, you know, and also these things. So it kind of gives me a much broader understanding of my culture that I'm studying. Right, and then I wanted to talk about how I've thematic analysis, and I'd be interested when I realize time is going by, when we shortly start having our discussion, if you have different approaches to how you think about data analysis. So when I started, before I'd even started data collection, I was doing reading and trying to figure out like what would be useful for me from the literature about data analysis. And I kind of landed on Laughlin's Structures of Activities, which is from 1971, from a book called Analyzing Social Settings, A Guide to Qualitative Observation and Analysis. I can send this stuff if you're interested. And I used it at the beginning, but I don't use it now, but I'll explain why. So Laughlin basically has a structure where you can it asks certain questions. So when you're analyzing field notes, so he basically looks at 5 things: actors, settings, ways of participating, relationships, and meanings. And what those different things mean are: actors, who is participating, ? Settings, where is it occurring? Ways of participating is what are the range of activities and behaviors that constitute participation in this context? Relationship is what is the range of relationships available? And meanings, which is a much bigger and more tricky one to deal with, is how do the individuals performing these activities make sense of them? Are there alternative meanings to be considered? So that's a lot of stuff, but when I was starting out, when I did my first offline fieldwork especially, I found this really useful because it's quite overwhelming to do ethnographic fieldwork. There's a lot going on and you don't really know what even is worth capturing because you don't know what your question is. So it's it's a lot, basically. And so I used this structure when I was writing and analyzing. I did end up with a lot of things I'm not going to use in the end, I don't know.
Oscar films.
Oscar films. Yeah. I have a folder called Thick Description, for example, which is not, I didn't need this to be a node, but when I was coding it. So you all familiar with the concept of thick description from Clifford Geertz, where you write thickly about in a very descriptive way about the culture that you're looking at. I definitely didn't need to code this though. It's not useful for me to have a code that says thick description because it's not an analytic category, I suppose. But I did code it because I just wanted to cover all my bases and I didn't know what was going to be useful. Yeah.
What happens if you click in one of these codes that actually has something to it? Is it just gonna...
Yeah, it will just bring up more of whatever data you have. It's a good question. Whatever data you have put into that code. So similarly to before with the cases, it will just pull up this is whatever you've coded. And I should also say something pretty useful is, for example, a way of visualizing the codes. If I go to online ethnography, YouTube. I'm just trying to remember this good example for this thing. Here we go. Oh no, that's not the one. Where's that Lucy? I'm just trying to find it. Sorry. This is the trouble. Even if you have lots of folders, sometimes you can't find the things that you're looking for. Basically, when you've coded something, okay, I can find a different example. Creators for Change Summit. Oh, here we go. Right. So if you have coded something, which I haven't coded a lot of my data, but if you have, these are field notes. You can bring up all of the codes, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And you can scroll down and be like, what are the different ones? And you see how they're changing because different portions of the text are you can click on the codes and you can see this portion was about people and this one was about self-reflexivity and whatever, oh look, thick description, that unuseful code. Lots of different things. Access, creators, these kinds of things are more useful, rhetoric of changing world through media. And that I find that's quite nice. You can access that through, you go to view and coding stripes and all nodes coding. I'm going to stop talking about this now because I feel like I am taking up too much time in which we could be having a discussion. And we took a little while to get going. I should say as well, like if we run over 7, you're welcome to leave, but we can carry on talking if anyone wants to stay. So we're going to start talking now, not just me talking.
Can I start with a question from the live stream?
Of course you can.
So Theodora asked you, Zoe, did you get Nvivo through the LSE? Was it easy to get hold of?
Yes, thank you, Theodora. This is Theodora Sutton, I assume?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Hello. Good question. Yeah, you can download the software for free, like from the website, I think. But to get a key, you have to have a key, an access key, and a license key. And LSE provides them to us. Anyone who works at a university, I assume, will have access to a key. Otherwise, you have to pay for it. That is the short answer. I think that's right. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And you can ask your whatever IT department if you work at a university for the key. Can you tell us who's on the live stream?
Yes, so we have Marth Heidemann, we have Theodora Sutton, we have Elaine Pang, we have Elise Taylor, Sazana Jayadeva, Said Mobayed, a load of people.
Load of people. How many people?
30
still
people.
There? Wow.
30 people currently.
It's amazing.
Some of them have to leave already, but
no,
that's all right.
Sorry.
Also, Marth Heidemann, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, said that at the moment I'm trying to figure out how to organize my field notes and material and which software would fit best for analyzing, or maybe finding something to combine both. So would you recommend Nvivo for both of these tasks?
For both, wait, what were the 2 tasks?
Organizing field notes and material and analyzing this material.
Nvivo is excellent for both organizing and analyzing material. But I would be interested to know if anyone uses anything different that they think is better than this, because I haven't used anything else. Or just different, whether it's better or not, because I don't know. Has anyone used anything else to any other software for analyzing qualitative data?
I haven't used, but I have heard of
Atlas.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it? It's similar.
Yeah, I think it's similar.
Yeah.
I know that like students haven't used it.
Yeah.
And I think Nvivo is the most popular one.
Okay.
Maybe user friendly.
Yeah. I actually have some questions here because I was interested to know what you thought about these, because these are issues. I've just come to the end of my data collection, and so I'm thinking quite hard about how to turn this into a thesis. And actually now I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the number of nodes that I have, although they were extremely useful in the early stages, and I wouldn't be at the place I was with my project if I hadn't done it like this, like with a plethora of nodes and then refining the nodes. Like that's been very useful. But now I'm thinking about analyzing my interviews, and I think that I'm definitely not going to code them in that open-ended way, because I'm doing the funnel structure thing, right? I'm now at the narrow end of the funnel where I know what my questions are, I know what my chapters are about. So I'm gonna code for those questions and not for everything. But I'd be interested to know if with your projects, have you done that like super open-ended thing, or have you started with narrower questions in your projects, preferably if you're talking about ethnography, because I know it's totally different if you're doing a different type of study. Yeah?
I mean, yeah, just for the first question that you were talking about, and then I'll answer the one you just said. The software, so I'm always going back and forth with what software to use to collect a really large amount of kind of constantly produced digital data, which sounds very similar to yours. And I ended up using Evernote to at least collect it. It doesn't let you analyze it in the same way as this one, but I found it to be really good for the diverse formats, because I'm using a lot of like videos and image heavy things that I know from other people's feedback of Nvivo is that if you start getting too many images, it can be a little bit challenging.
Slow.
So I've been trying to do Evernote first, organize and code through Evernote, and then eventually get the PDFs from there and take it into Nvivo. And I've come across a few people who've done that successfully, although I've not actually in this project done the transfer over to Nvivo. So I'm kind of in that like middle stage of
the PDFs of what? Like, what would you be transferring over?
The data that I've collected. So all the images of all of the information that I've gotten from online. And then I can transfer all of that data into Nvivo.
But why would you transfer it?
It's able to just capture the heavier materials
But
better,
wouldn't
or you can code them differently. I don't know. I've come across a few other ethnographers that have done that, and I think with the quantity of
Would it
different
not
types
be
of
the same
materials-
problem though if you then put it into Nvivo? Would it not just crash?
well, I've not quite gotten to the Nvivo stage, so I will let you know.
Yeah,
I think so in my PhD, I did ethnography, but in a much less technologically assisted way.
Yeah.
So doing a just
Right.
kind of ethnography and building it up and the kind of chaos of lots of things
Yeah.
happening and then creating, kind of narrowing it down and kind of coming into your format. And I think like the issues that you're talking about just sound like kind of ethnographic issues.
Yes.
Rather than necessarily how like an issue with Nvivo.
Yeah.
So I
For
guess
sure.
one of the things I was wondering, like, do you do a lot of work off Nvivo to try and get your thoughts together?
Well, lucky you should ask, because as it happens, I have this right in front of me. So like I say, I'm at this point where I'm turning between doing all the data collection. Ooh, it just went quiet. That was weird. It was the aircon.
Yeah.
Doing the data collection and trying to like turn it into something that's useful. And so I felt a bit overwhelmed by this, even though this is very essential for my project. I don't think I could have got to this place without this kind of software. But I decided to print all of my offline event field notes, which is just, you know, said one part of my data collection. But I just felt that putting them physically in front of me and reading them in chronological order from start to finish, although I have more to do next year actually, but just like taking this as a break point, because I'm writing a paper right now, which I need like extremely large amount of like field work. But yeah, I decided to print it and just read through it like from start to finish. I know that it's not great in terms when I'm not gonna do, you know, like some people would physically, like Fedora there, I know, has done like printed and highlighted like physically all her like field. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to like, I want this to be the thing that I'm using. So I'm going to read through, and if I find something useful, I'll go to the field notes here, you know, like they're all here in these various different, these are exactly the same things as this. And I'll go to here and I'll go through and I'll code like more selectively. I think doing that will help me to manage the amount of information, because if I tried to code all of these in the way that I coded that first, you saw all the nodes right down the side, like that would be chaos, I think, because there's just way too much information. Yeah, but this is the first time I've tried to use anything else other than just using Nvivo to think through my data.
Just to compliment from the live streaming, people seem to be agreeing that Evernote is more useful for images, but that they think Nvivo offers a much more sophisticated tool for analysis.
Right.
So it seems to be people collect on Evernote and then do the analysis on Nvivo.
Interesting. I'm very worried all the time that it's gonna crash, everything's gonna disappear, and I'm not gonna be able to like turn it into something else, because there's so many codes that I've collected through this. And a lot of different types of data, like all the videos and stuff. So I'd be interested to know if it, I mean, I haven't heard of anyone doing that, but now I know. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know. It does get a bit slow, I would say, with Nvivo. Definitely don't use it for videos, just images. Yeah. Anything else from the live stream?
Yes, there's a question. Federica Scrimieri asked, sorry, but can I use Nvivo to analyze metadata too? Like likes, views, etc. I'm working on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just, in the same way, like, for example, when I have, like in my YouTube videos folder, which I'm just opening now, bless you. I mean, like here, I don't know if you can see, if you want to just turn it a little bit, like I've just opened one video that I have here, which is from Nathan Z. I can see from whenever I pulled it in, this was in January. I also have the date here, the 15th of January 2019 was when I pulled it into my Nvivo. I can see he had 91,322 views, and these are all the likes and dislikes, his number of subscribers. I can see the comments, although something weird is going on. I'm slightly concerned that I can't see the comments today because usually I can, so not sure. But yeah, technically anything you could pull down with a PDF would give you that kind of data.
And then, sorry, Zoe, would you highlight when it's a code I like? Would you highlight that like, and then you'd be able to code it?
Yeah.
Just like you highlight any words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess you would be like, I don't know how you might go about coding that, but you
just create a code for it.
Whatever you like.
Highlighting the actual numbers, you wouldn't be able to highlight the actual.
Well, there's no, you can't code an image, like in the image wouldn't be able to come up in this bit because it's all text based. Yeah. So you'd have to find some kind of textual equivalent for an image, I suppose.
Maybe creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Any more thoughts? Actually, I would like to know what you think about this. So how open-ended do you think that coding should be for an ethnographic project? Like, do you think that it's useful to have this many, I don't know, I couldn't tell you how many codes I have at this point, but like just an excessive number of codes, or would you prefer to have a more narrow idea going in? What do you think are the pros and cons of those two different approaches?
I think it depends. Oh, sorry. I think it depends on how you start. Because you started by taking like an inductive approach, so I think it's from. But maybe at some point, I don't know like what this point is, but maybe at some point you need to say, okay, I'll go through my codes notes again and see whether I can like merge some of them.
You can merge them, yeah.
I was gonna ask, you can.
Yeah.
You can, and I have never deleted any codes, but I often move them around. Like I'm always putting them within broader codes. And the point, I should have said, the point of doing it like this, where you have the things in capital letters, like, so actually I have it written down here. Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. So I'm constantly rearranging my nodes and refining and grouping them. I never leave a basic theme, which is like just any one theme floating around. I always make sure to categorize them into an organizational theme being one of these ones in capitals. It's partly for practical reasons of not being overwhelmed by the number of basic themes, but also to ensure that I'm always engaging with my coding practices on an analytic level. So like the point is that it's not just a load of stuff. It's like, and what? Like, what does it mean? And you're always putting things in and thinking it through in terms of how you organize it so that it's useful for something. It's not just like information, I suppose. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I think I've been some PhD projects, and you're doing as much research as this. I can't imagine doing it without all of those codes.
Yeah.
Like if you were just restricted to a few, you'd just lose it. Because this is really making me laugh because I've been working on a project for about 3 years. And I've got hundreds of just books where I've just written all of my notes, and it's only in the last few months I've started putting onto an Excel spreadsheet, which is already looking really ridiculous. And now I'm like, oh, this is so much better.
Yeah.
And like, particularly with the Excel spreadsheet, I'm like coding things, but in a really simplistic way. But this is like so much more valuable.
I think that it's like, what I've found is that it's like a journey, like an epic journey. You start with one idea, you do stuff, and then you find that some of it's useful, some of it's not useful. And then now I feel like I'm at a real crossroads where I'm like, well, we will find out if this was a useful way to do it, because I can't actually tell you at this moment. I feel like it is, but actually, like the fact that I have so much stuff here, I probably have 20 articles worth of data sitting in these categories that I'm never going to use, or maybe I could use at some point, but like some people would say that's a complete waste of time. Like, people who, if I were not doing a PhD and I was working in a department and actually really limited for time in terms of the work I can produce, this would be a very difficult method to use, I would say, because it's like very time intensive.
But doesn't that mean that like other themes are more important to your topic, perhaps? Like, they're just like less relevant.
Yeah.
And like as you're trying to make sense out of chaos, that's also a finding
in
a way, in a sense. Think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Does Nvivo organizes it? Does it tell you numerically, like in amounts, like how much of a theme you've got? Can you visualize that so you can have an idea of your whole data set? Of how heavy?
There's all sorts of different funny things you can do. But let me just show you one thing.
The thing that can start helping you, like
look, you can see the numbers here. How many files are sitting within files, meaning like how many codes are sitting underneath, and then references is like how many times that one code has been referenced by different things. So you can see a sort of numeric value there, like this. Well, people obviously has like a lot of people in it, but there's also a way of visualizing it. Oh, and also I realized that it's 7:03, and we said we were going from 6 till 7. So if anyone wants to leave, we can, but I think we'll probably stay for another 10-15 minutes if people want to. I think it's here. Has anyone played with these things? There's like word clouds. You can do all sorts of things. Let's say, I think I can do it like this. I've played with it before and I can't remember. I mean, it's not useful to me because it's just like a big picture. Oh, look, I think it's here. Yeah. So there's like diagrams. I think this is probably more useful if you're doing a quantitative project. Mind map. See, like, how do these? Oh, okay.
I think that's the new building.
What?
Like you then build them.
Oh, you build them.
There's
okay. There's a way that I've looked at it, which is amazing, which is like it's like hierarchy chart. This one's fun. Okay, look. So like this is.
I mean. That's good.
This is silly, but I'll show you anyway because it's like I can't even see what's inside it because there's so much stuff. But you can imagine if you if you had less in it, right? You'd actually be able to see like, oh, this is how much of my coding is being taken by this. These are all the people, right? And I could go down into them as different people. Oh, okay. Oh, this is fun. So there's like, but I mean, is it useful to see that something is more than something else? Because the number of codes doesn't necessarily denote that it's more important. It could probably just mean that it's more splintered in terms of an idea. But it's kind of fun. Like, I don't know. Yeah, this is quite useful. Creator culture, YouTube size does matter, relationships. Yeah, these are like all the themes and broken down into nice little chunks. But yeah, I think it's a question of like playing with it and seeing what you find to be useful. I haven't yet found this to be useful. But, it's a bit of a laugh.
Maybe is there a way to export it somehow?
Probably.
So that it can look like more.
You would think so, wouldn't you? This is the thing where I'm not sure if it like operates well with other programs. That would be more useful. Have we got any more questions? I'm just thinking an idea. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, you can code images in just parts of the image. If instead of using the text tool, you use the selection tool.
Yes, you can code images.
So then
for the like.
Yeah, you could code.
Oh yeah.
Itself through doing it like that.
That's true, but it would still just come up as a node which is text.
But then,
But then when you click on the node, it would show the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it will show the image.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Do you use the annotation function at all?
I have once. You mean notes like this?
Yeah.
Do you?
I tried to, but you can only ever view. I only found you could ever view one annotation at a time. So I went through and annotated. I made comments on a whole lot of things, but then I tried. I couldn't figure out how to export a node, including the annotations as well as the parts. And so
I think the annotations attach to the.
But I couldn't seem to show more than one annotation at a time.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Like a pointless exercise in the end.
Yeah, and you don't want to like double down on one system and then realize that it's not useful. That's super annoying.
So then you have thoughts as you've been going along about, oh, this is why this is interesting for this node. Do you collect that somewhere else, or do you just?
What would you mean? Why it's useful for?
So, or like for a sub, like because presumably sitting under all your sub nodes, you've got lots of different things, but you're thinking about them in different ways.
Yeah. Oh, so I see,
what I mean.
Well, that's where for me it's worked to do the thing where I have the like the info.
Okay.
So like whatever, get info. I write. This is my version of having a note, if you know what I mean. And so when I have, I don't know what this one is about. That's fine. I always wonder if something's going to be like embarrassing. So if I were to go into my nodes and I wanted to be like, why did I, you know, I see that I would see the Casey Neistat video there, for example, but I wouldn't know until I went into the video and looked at the note to know why it was of interest to me, basically. Yeah.
Are you asking about like how do you make that bigger narrative and like how each piece fits into a larger narrative and where you're taking those notes?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the next step.
I don't really take notes about that. I mean, I think that having the, wait, sorry, let me just move this. I think that to me, because I know what I've put where, it's obvious why I've put something within something else. Like that process of like if I'm thinking about, okay, so you know, one of my chapters is about intimacy, authenticity, and labor of creators, basically the relationships between creators and their audiences. It's quite obvious to me why fans defending creators would sit within that code, why creators perceived as authentic by fans would sit within that code. Am I answering the question you're asking?
More in, so let's take creators perceived as authentic by fans.
Yeah.
Presumably there's a few things sitting under that which are all doing different things. And so as I'm coding, I'm like, oh, this is like if I wanted to comment on one of those specific things, then I've made an annotation, but then I haven't figured out what, do you see what I mean?
Not sure if I
maybe
do.
Maybe I'm getting too specific.
No, it's an interesting question.
Like when you start to write, actually. Like you're doing your analysis, you're like writing your analysis. Like why you're putting all this under this intimacy, authenticity, and what does that mean? What all this data means to your, it's like you're starting to write. Yeah. I mean, but then perhaps you have to do it in another, like in a separate file.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the point now where I'm starting to write, I'm thinking like I'm writing this first chapter here, and my first port of call will be to look through what I've put under, like there's so much stuff in this one. So these are lots of big different things, and all of these have got lots of things underneath them, you know, like huge amounts of things. I'll look through all of these codes and start to think about like why I put that process, right? Why I put certain things in, what I'm going to actually use and what's useful, and what I will obviously only use like 1% of the stuff that's sitting under any of these codes. But the fact that I've already started to do the analysis by managing them in this way will help me to think through that process. I guess that's the answer. And I haven't really done it yet. So I guess I don't know how that will go. And I'll read through, like printing these off, you know, in a way to try and come at the data from a different angle, like reread it fresh, because sometimes what you code might not be the useful thing. You might come up with something new in the moment where you're rereading after the fact of having done this coding. You know what I mean? Like with this framework in mind, when I reread my data, I might come to new themes or concepts, I suppose. Yeah. I'm aware of time. I don't know whether, like, I want to know what other people are doing, but I feel like I've heard some of what. Are there any more questions on here?
People are basically asking you to show again how you got into that rectangle thing and the mapping.
Okay, so if you go to, can they see? You need to face it back a bit so they can see the whole. Okay, so I'm in my nodes here. These are all my nodes up and down here. You can click on whatever one you want. Let's say I'm looking at hearsay and knowledge sharing, and then you go up here, which is explore, this explore button, and it's hierarchy chart, and you click on it, and then you can like click in and out of these different things. This is the whole thing actually, because I just did a smaller one. Is that clear? Hopefully. Right.
One more thing.
Yes.
Do you transcription at all with Nvivo? Do you transcribe? Can you upload things and transcribe things within it? No.
You upload the transcription, I think. You don't do the transcription on it.
The actual audio part, I don't know. But you can. You could.
There's a thing called Otto, which much better. It's free.
What's it called?
Otto. Otto.
I mean, you can type whatever you want into Nvivo.
Yeah, but you can't
put the audio into my knowledge. But I don't think there'd be any point in doing that, because you can just listen to it and type it.
If it helps you anyhow.
I suppose that, I mean, the function where you can pull down a video and actually code different parts of the video might apply to audio as well in Nvivo, but I've never come across it. I certainly didn't do it like that. Yeah.
What's the auto thing?
Now, it is here an application when you are, I don't know, you are having an interview, you can record your interview and it transcribe all the interviews for you. So it is,
That might be an ethical question, depending on where it gets stored. Usually those kinds of AI technologies are like ethical problems because of where the data is stored. Yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose if you need to transcribe, you can use those software that is specific to it, right? Express Scribe, something like that. It's probably more useful than Nvivo anyway.
What's that?
It's those software in which you have the audio and you can use a pedal or whatever to stop in a minute. And
I mean, I have F5 Transcript, for example. Same kind of thing. I have, you know, I find it quite good. But actually, in the end, I paid for someone to transcribe my interviews because
you learned so much.
Because it was, because it would have literally taken me like 3 months, I think, to transcribe my interviews. So I've got all the transcriptions now. I'm going to listen through and read them and make sure they're correct, because that's always like worth doing. Those auto transcribe things often also aren't accurate.
No, you have to go through it.
Yeah, but I did transcribe a few of them myself in F5 Transcript, which was really good. If anyone wants to pay someone to do it, I would highly recommend rev.com, which is like super fast. They did them in like 24 hours, which is insane.
She's not getting paid to say this.
Rev.com. Yeah, that's used by a lot of like newspapers and stuff. Yeah, I think we should stop because I'm aware that it's 7:15. Does anyone have any further questions, or we can always like chat afterwards? What about anything else in here? I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I realized I wasn't able to incorporate all your questions.
I think the last question would be, how early in your research did you start using Nvivo, and how difficult was it for you to master it?
Oh, I used it straight away. So I started using it right at the beginning because I knew that I was going to have a lot of codes, and it took a lot of trial and error, but it's not hard to understand, but I think a lot of the ways that I use it are not the ways that other people use it. Like a lot of the quirks of how I've decided to organize my data is just things through trial and error that worked for me. So I think there are loads of different ways that you can use it. But probably like I used it, I did a data pilot, like a data collection pilot, and that was like a week. And I kind of, by the end of it, I had basically got this entire system was set, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Okay, I think we have to finish because people are leaving. Thank you so much to people on the live stream. Bye. See you in 2 weeks. We have Patricia Lang. She's not actually coming. She's going to be virtually here presenting about her new book, which is about YouTube and autoethnography, which is nice for me. But she wrote like one of the classic YouTube books. So we're really looking forward to that. And we hope that you will be here virtually, or perhaps even in person, and you will be here in person or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the end stream.
Bye. Yeah.
Are you sure you want to end the stream?
Yeah. I can.